Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of GeekVerse Podcast. I am one of your hosts, the small business owner, Taylor Field, and I'm joined by...
I am the Mark Zero, Kirklin and Taylor.
And I am the lone Lenny, Dylan Musk. Taylor, have you thought about saying "Halo, everybody" instead of "hello"?
Oh, I like that. I'll pull that for episode 5, 6, 7, 8.
Nice. Okay.
Reviews, because yes, we're reviewing Halo, as Dylan alluded to there. So season 2 is... Well, it's upon us, and we're at the halfway mark now. And
You can already tell how he's
So
feeling.
enthusiastic, yeah.
we're going to be getting into it. I can't wait. But before we get into our non-spoilers thoughts to start, a couple of plugs. You can find us with your internet connection. The search bar, GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast, our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook. We have a ton of thank yous. We got to dish out to our patrons here. Where are those beautiful patrons? Look at them, the producers. Aaron Brayton, April of Darkness, Jack Grant, Muds, and Sam. You folks are fantastic. Love you all to the moon and back and then some. So support us on Patreon. I mean, help us grow the show, create new content while you get ad-free exclusive early episodes. There's tons of great stuff over there. A bunch of retros. We just did the Twilight retro. That's over there right now. So tons of oodles of stuff.
That episode's getting high praise. I heard Muds liked it, and I went over. Patreon Tyler really loved it. So, yeah, a lot of people are liking the Twilight retrospective.
And Mud's paid for it specifically, so you know that's
I'm very glad she liked it then.
good review there.
That's good
Review the
paid
review.
content. What else? I guess I did a Bad Batch season 3 episodes 1 to 3 premiere spoilers review, and then you guys did a Madame Web review. What else is cooking?
We got the, we're currently watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then Taylor and I are going to be dropping a review for that. We haven't actually talked about the day, so maybe we'll speak upon that off cast, but we're both on episode 3, so 3 of 8, so you can expect that in the very close near future.
Yeah, then we're recording a spicy newscast after this. Side quest, me and Taylor had a really great discussion this week talking about a bunch of Xbox news specifically, and next week, me and Kirkland's episode I think is also going to be very fun, so go check that out for sure.
And we got Dune next week. That's going to be kind of like
Oh my god, that's
crescendo.
Still haven't mastered the chant, unfortunately.
I know
I'm
Travis
very
put that on
excited.
Discord. That's like, it's coming in a few days, but it still hasn't sunk in until you said that for me. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's crazy.
100%.
Well, that's all the stuff. It's good stuff, great stuff. But we're here to talk about some questionable stuff, at least for me. But how did you guys feel about episode 4, non-spoilers of Halo?
I I would say I was disappointed in this episode. I have very low expectations just across the board with this show, like coming off of season 1 going into season 2, and it hasn't impressed me since the start of the episode. I think it's like it peaked in that first opening scene in episode 1, and then since then it's just kind of skyrocketed down. Not like it's just going further and further down, but it's just kind of scraping the bottom, I think, and just failing at trying to like tread above water for me. Because like this one, especially last week's, like we knew we were getting into the big Fall of Reach stuff, and I was expecting a lot of big action. Like even though I'm not high expectations of the quality, I was still expecting like a lot of action and hopefully some good just some good moving sequences and action set pieces, because I feel like something that the show does pretty well in my opinion is at least like the quality maybe of their CGI usage of like the plasma rifles or just the way that the Covenant looks. Like I actually think that stuff looks really great. You know, I've said it so many times, they look so good in the armor. So I was hoping for a lot of that in this episode, and I did not get a lot of that in this episode. I feel like there was maybe like one action sequence that I thought looked pretty good, but other than that, I feel like for this to be the big climactic like action episode, I thought it under-delivered by far. And there's just a couple dialogue pieces between two or three characters that I just wasn't really loving. And just some consequence that like should have had higher consequence. I felt like it wasn't really there for me, and I think that's just a result of like the show failing at making me get attached to certain characters. So overall I'm not really liking what I got from this week. It's kind of a reoccurring theme week to week, but this one was a thumbs down for me.
Yeah, it's another weak episode for me, but I actually do have some positives on this one. There's certain character things or certain dialogue stuff that I thought was pretty well done. And for the first time in this show's history, this season, last season, I feel like this had pretty good pacing. Like it was over, and I was like, oh, that actually went by at like a solid pace. I think where the pacing does fall off is when we're like switching back to these kind of secondary character storylines, and then they kind of connect at the end. But that's just how this show is. They never really stick to just one thing for one episode. And then, yeah, I kind of with what you're saying, Kirkland, of just like the quality of the CG and the action. It's like the stuff with the elites and the just Covenant-related things, that always looks really great with like maybe minor exceptions, but it's always like the human stuff, whether it's like them CGI movements of humans or just like weapons. I'll talk about that more specifically later. That stuff just looked really weird and cheap in this episode, which was kind of a bummer. So yeah, another weak episode for me, but I at least had some bright spots in it. So I'll definitely bring those up when we get to them because that doesn't happen too often in the show for me. So I'm gonna keep it short because I gotta hear Taylor's thoughts on this episode.
I'm glad that you have some bright spots because I know that there are some with this episode, but I just don't see them right now. I'm just so angry.
You're only seeing red.
You're seeing red, yeah.
I'm only seeing red. There's certain things like I feel like I'm calling with this show, and I fucking hate that I'm right. And there's one big thing, and I got up at like 6 a.m. I brought my daughter downstairs. We're just having some breakfast. Like, okay, I got like 2 hours before work. I'm gonna watch Halo. I'm gonna see what this is all about. And man, it was so disappointing. It was really, really disappointing. Especially
This is the
just
first
one-
episode that your daughter's seen.
No, she's
sat
been
her
kinda
down with
like-
a couple other ones.
She's been
Okay.
binging
No,
it.
1 and 2. No, I stayed up for midnight for that, and then
Okay.
3. She was there for 3, and she was there for this one too, as
Okay.
well. But yeah, so this
Her
this-
first words: "Turn this shit off." Dad."
Yeah.
Turn this shit
I
off.
was just
Yeah.
curious if this was her first exposure. It's just like your lowest episode.
So they did one line drop, and man, I was just ready to throw my fucking cereal bowl at the TV. I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. And of course they fucking pull this shit. Oh my god. I all this morning, like, it ruined my day pretty much. My whole day was fucking ruined. But I just wrote down notes. I just kept writing down
I feel
notes.
like every
on why
hour
this
in the
episode
Discord was like a
sucked.
new Taylor post of just
Yeah.
expressing your disappointment in obvious or not obvious ways.
I was just so upset. I came home from work and I started telling Madison about how the episode sucked, and I was like, I acknowledged her. I'm like, yeah, no, this has no weight on your shoulders because you don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm just mad. And all my notes that I wrote down, I was just writing down all these shitty fucking
All caps
reasons
locks.
why. Oh,
All
yeah.
your notes.
I was just super mad, super mad. There's another thing that happens in this episode, and I'm hoping you guys can confirm it for me, because from what I saw, I was like, man, what the fuck? What is Master Chief doing in this situation? I couldn't believe it. It was really questionable. Like, this guy should not be leading jack shit. After
I think
what
that when
saw
you just
him
say
do.
that, I can instantly think of like 3 or 4 separate things that are like, I wonder why he was doing that. So, I wonder what the one you're thinking of is.
Oh. Yeah, I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling good, boys. This show's just really just wearing me down.
Dude, you can't watch Halo before work anymore. You can't have it just ruining your whole day.
No, I go to work and I'm angry at everybody.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong, Taylor? You see that fucking Halo show? I mean, you want to talk about, we'll get to it later, but at least Avatar was a way to kind of pick my spirits back up a little bit after that.
There you go.
Dumpster
Go watch
fire.
Avatar.
Yeah, go watch
Bow out of
Avatar.
Halo now.
Yeah, but that's all I'm gonna leave on for non-spoilers. It's just fuck's sakes. So, is there anything else you guys want to add before we get into the spoilers?
I'm ready
I
for
don't
some
think so.
spoilers.
Where do you guys want to start? I guess 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're in spoilers. Where do you guys want to start?
I want to know what the line was that you're. I feel like I can't wait. You got to tell me.
Okay. Let me pull up my note here. Okay. Holy shit.
So, something he said, or just how you said how he handled the situation?
Well, that's different. That's a different thing. A situation is
Okay.
a different thing. But something the character said. We have Reach is just crumbling around. It's just fucking bonkers, and Master Chief is just thinking, okay, I gotta get to FleetCom. So he's with Perez and all that, and they're trying to get to FleetCom, and they get there, and you see Riz, and you see Vanek, and Chief's just the whole time like, I gotta get my armor, And what the fuck does Vanek first thing he says? Like, the armor's gone. Suits are not there, Chief. I'm just like, fuck no. Like, I
It's
fucking
exactly what you
knew this was
predicted.
coming.
That's exactly
I
what you predicted
know.
last week. You're like, he's not gonna have the armor for the battle, and I'm like, I hope you're wrong. And then as soon as he said the line, I was like picturing what you would have reacted. I never thought you would have been throwing your cereal at the TV, but
Man, they like repeat it multiple times too, and then he's talking to Commander Keyes later and reiterates that again as well. I don't know why they were trying to rub salt in the room. I think they were really trying to just justify him not having the armor by
Yeah.
giving us various explanations, but none of the explanations are really satisfying. They're just like, it's gone, I guess. I don't, I don't know where it went. Ackerson did something with it. Don't really have much of an
Yeah.
answer for you. So it's weird that they brought it up as much as they did. But yeah, I mean, that's such a huge miss. I feel bad for you, Taylor, in particular, just because this scene, the Fall of Reach has been something you've been looking forward to since like season one, the end of season one, this whole season, because we know we're leading up to it. And to have this and just not have the most iconic thing that makes Halo Halo there, it's like, goddamn, what a bizarre choice that they made here. And you have to look at like, okay, what was the purpose of it?
Yeah.
Like, what do they gain from doing it? I guess they're like, maybe Pablo's a really great actor and he can convey some of this, but I don't know if that's the case. I think the one thing that we do get is I like the scene when Commander Keyes brings up Chief and he like introduces him to all these soldiers because they don't know what he looks like, and that's cool. But you don't need him to not have the suit at all for that scene to happen. You just have him take the helmet off for a minute just to help motivate them by being like, "Oh, I'm a human too." I don't know, whatever it is.
Right.
There's a lot of ways you could still get that scene without this whole choice to not have the iconic suit in there. It's really bad choice.
Yeah, no, I like from that point on, I was just like in my mind thinking of like, why is this necessary? Like why does he like what story purpose does he have to not have the armor for? Like what type of growth of a character is he gonna have
Yeah.
for like not having the armor? And I don't think they ever really go there. I think there's like very weak attempts at like trying to have like a kind of what you're saying, just let Pablo like act with another character, and I don't think that happens at all, especially with Perez. Like I feel like those two's chemistry, I'm just like why is Perez even here anymore? Like she could have just perished in the church and I think I would have been okay with it. Like there's no like major story thing. You could have had any character fly the ship away at the end. Like it doesn't have to be her. And I do agree with you. I actually really liked pretty much the whole like from start to finish with Keyes and Chief, like from the point where when Chief asks like who's in charge, and then he goes over and talks to Keyes. Like I think that part, basically to the end, is like really strong. Well, not till the end of the episode, it's just the end of the Keyes part.
Yeah, in the base camp, that whole section.
Yeah, and like in my mind, I'm just like, man, like I really don't think they juiced that character enough for the entire show. Like that actor is actually like really good with, at least for how that scene went. So I personally feel robbed that they didn't utilize that a little bit more, because it just seemed like in previous episodes he would always be distanced from Chief and like kind of dealing with like the high top stuff, and then always being like kind of on that side, and then by the end he's like fuck those guys. So I am sad that we didn't get more of him kind of being almost like the Sergeant what was his name, Sergeant Johnson type role. Like I wanted that kind of in between thing, but unfortunately we didn't get that. So I thought that was strong, and I do agree. I think it's funny because I think I was posting that question last week about like, doesn't everyone just know who Chief is? Like when he was just walking along the streets, I'm like, how is nobody like just like taking selfies with this guy? Like he feels like the icon. Here they kind of laid it out that obviously not like even the soldiers don't know what he looks like, let alone the people out there. So I did like
Except
how that
the sign changer guy. He's changing. The signs about-
Yeah.
He knows what Chief looks like.
he knows exactly. That's right. Yeah. So I guess all those people that work there know exactly who he is. But yeah, and like the action sequences, I'm just like, man, like this looks exactly how he fights with the armor on. Like it almost like diminishes the effect of the armor, other than just looking like a badass. By the end, like he takes like one blaster shot by that elite that just gets decapitated, and then it's like, okay, I guess he's a little bit more vulnerable, but like you could have had that same reaction with the armor on, right? Just say that like the shields are down and that's how he gets hit. So I do not like the reason on why they lose the armor. I don't even like have faith that like next episode, if it's like our goal is to get our armor back, they just kind of lost me at this point. Like I don't really care about that. I think when he eventually gets the armor again, and we do have a cool action scene, I'll at least like it for the eye pleasure what's going on. But yeah, that was a big letdown, and I was really hoping Taylor was going to be wrong with his prediction, but but
I
you
wish
were
I was
right.
too. Yeah, it's so unfortunate. Like the whole scene of them bringing Chief up and trying to boost the morale. It's already depressing enough because they're saying, "Yeah, you're if you stay here and fight, you're not gonna make it." Here's Master Chief, who's gonna fight with you, but he doesn't have his armor either. I'm just mad about how they handled all of this because Reach is it's it's a fortress, and they're treating it like this is the only city on the planet, and the city is being destroyed, obviously. But I feel like Reach, at least in the game, Reach is so much more larger and expansive, and you have the whole planet fighting. But here, the fight's been going on for a couple hours, and now the power's been turned off, and like everything. Like, what the fuck? Like, Reach is just so much more larger scale. I get it. You don't have that kind of a budget because you took the budget away from Chief's suit and put it towards adding like a billion fucking jackals in one little hangar scene. So I understand that. But other than that, it's such a shame. I feel like the scale isn't there, and so many things were missed. And just the fact too that Ackerson, in summary, Ackerson left the planet, and Spartan 2s, which cost I believe it's like the cost of like a small fucking fleet of ships. No, we're going to let them all die on the planet, leave them behind, and then take their fucking armor away from them. Why don't you evacuate the Spartan 2s? Why don't you get them out of there? Or just, heck, leave them the armor? I don't know. Like, there's just some fucking bullshit, like, with this. It's just, man, I just don't get it, and it bothers me.
I agree. Like if they're trying to take the suits to save the cost of just the suits, even though the Spartans themselves are a lot more expensive than the suits, fuck, the whole planet of Reach is probably 100 times more, or a million times more expensive than those Spartans. So like, at least give them the tools to take out as many as they can to at least delay the it. They didn't even try to explain like the reasoning of it, and I know we didn't see Ackerson and those like higher ups, so maybe if someone wants to play devil's advocate, they could just say, oh, wait till next week, then they'll might have an explanation. Like, I just have no faith in the show to actually explain that and explain it in a way that it's satisfying. Like, it just seems, yeah, that's just the way it is. We're gonna take his armor. He's just gonna be the samurai with no armor and just like fight to the last man. And when they're like holding the line with all the army men at the end, like the Spartans end up just like leaving the group anyways, right? Because the Marines are like, we got this, chief. like I know he's doing it to help other people escape, but it's almost like what Ackerson's doing. Like you just letting the more valuable target leave while the foot soldiers perish. I just kind of chuckle in that scene because it's like, so much for holding the line. Like, I feel like they're fighting for like 5 more minutes and then they just take the back route. But
Well, on that note, and it's kind of all involved with the scene of him just with Perez and him trying to get to Fleetcom. There's a scene here, and this is something that he did that made me question leadership, because they're trying to get to Fleetcom. So, basically, if you imagine the scene, they get into the alleyway where all the Marines are fighting. And this is after Chief like fucking football tackles the elite, fights the elite and all that, which that's a whole other thing in itself. But he's with Perez. Perez is tripping out trying to warn everyone, and Chief's like, no, it's too late. Let's get to Fleetcom. So they're moving out into where the alleyway is. The humans are fighting, and there's a warthog that's all semi-destroyed, and there's one Marine up against it, and he's pinned down, but he's like holding his ground, right? And so Marine, Chief, and Perez is dead last. Chief's in the middle. And I swear to God, like, so when Chief pushed, this is how I wrote it out. When Chief pushed from the cover of the Warthog with Perez, he was yelling out, like, go, go, go. And this was after, I guess, this is after they evacuated people from Fleetcom, but this Marine that was next to him, I swear to God, Chief literally just fucking shoves him out into the open and he literally explodes. The Marine dies instantly. Chief literally like yells out, go, 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 as if it's clear, but the Marine takes all the fucking fire and Chief just kicks him out and he dies. I felt so bad for this Marine.
Oh my God.
It really just crushed.
I didn't. Kirkland, did you catch that?
I did not catch
Okay.
that whatsoever.
I didn't catch it either, but that doesn't surprise me just because there's multiple moments in here that I'm just like, do I even know Chief as a character at this point? Because he just seems to not give a shit about anyone. at all, and that was like really shocking to me. It doesn't make me want to root for the character personally, and but yeah, there's like that moment with Perez when she's trying to help people in the street, and he's like, fuck it, they're doomed, like just leave them. One of the more shocking things to me was Perez is like, I gotta go back for my family, and he's like, they're gone, let's get out of here. Why would anyone in that situation say that? First of all, he doesn't know shit. He doesn't know they're gone. He's just telling this lady that her family is dead and just forget about it and let's go immediately. Seems very unchief, like very unheroic as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, then you're right there, just kind of like abandoning people in the streets. Doesn't even want to warn people. Doesn't even want to try and warn people. Also, I don't know how those people like in that area weren't aware of what was going on, but that's beside the point. So yeah, I all of that was just really rubbed me the wrong way. Of like, this chief guy's pretty nasty, hey, and so it doesn't surprise me that he fucking threw some guy out there to get exploded and take shots for them.
Man, when he has, they have like a moment of just to catch their breath between him and Perez, and that's when I think it's Perez. Correct me if it's a different character, but that's when he basically is explaining how like he does all these battles and he doesn't die because he's just lucky. Like when you flip the coin 11
God.
times.
I thought he was saying he could see the
fuck's
future. I was
sakes.
so confused about that scene.
Yeah, exactly. He's like he's got foresight or something along those lines because he's like, oh yeah, I flipped the coin 11 times. I knew what it was. It's the same thing with battle. Like a lot of people are gonna die, but I know I'm always gonna live. And then there's fucking scenes like Taylor's laid out that he's just tossing Marines into the open fire. No wonder he's surviving all these fights. Like he's very questionable just outlook on war. It's almost as if he has like no like humanity in him. Like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like I'm always gonna survive, so it doesn't really matter who dies along the way because I know it's not gonna be me. And I don't know if that was supposed to be like a video game type thing because it's like it doesn't matter how hard the mission is. Like, you know, along the storyline, Chief makes it through. Like it's a linear story, so you know how it's gonna go. I don't know if that was the attempt there, but it just seemed like such a weird dialogue sequence amongst those two, and that was one where I was just scratching my head. I'm like, why even have this dialogue? Like, it's not making us like Chief anymore because he's saying it in a way that he's like a tortured soul. Like, oh yeah,
or Pablo though, who's like not trying to act at all. But to me, if that's like trying to emulate the games anyway, like that's a complete fail because when I'm playing the games and I am Master Chief, I want to save every last soldier I can. They're super squishy. Yeah. They'll die to anything. But I get bummed when they die. Not that they're really helping me in any way. I'm way more powerful than any 1 or 10 of those soldiers. But I want every last one of them. Like if I can have a full Warthog like that, let's go. That is my preferred state of being in the game. So I mean, I know the creators of this show don't really care about the games. They talked about that with season 1, right? But yeah, like that also just didn't make me. It didn't elicit the feelings I get when I'm Master Chief. Taylor, what was the other thing that it wasn't a line? You said it was another choice of his or something?
Yeah, well, there was that one, and then I guess just kind of piggybacking on what you were saying, Kirkland, about how he's talking about, I flip a coin and called it 11 times, which that's sticking to the lore. You know, he did get tested by Halsey, and he kept, when he was a kid, and he kept being able to call it heads or tails, and that's one of the reasons why Halsey recruited him, because he had this luck factor. It was just something, and that's genetic superiority over other humans.
So it's luck. It's not like the ability to see the future.
No, not seeing the future. It's just luck. But you never get this egotistical sense of superiority from Chief in any of the games or any other media. It's even like he just disregards this luck factor, and he just, to himself, he tells himself like, hey, I have a job to do, a duty and a responsibility, and I'm going to do what I can and do my best, do the best that I can. And that has morphed to a slight degree throughout Halo, to the point where he's turned on humanity at times, trying to save Cortana, and just to the point where and you have a scene that mirrors this. I can't remember the pilot's name, but he's the main character with Chief in Halo Infinite. And you have a wonderful moment, and this cutscene in Halo Infinite just brings me to tears every time I watch it, because the pilot just admits he's a coward. He can't handle this anymore, being trapped on this Forerunner planet. He just can't deal with it anymore, and Chief just consoles him and lets them know, like, we all make mistakes, we're only human, and yada yada yada, and like, but we can do this together. And with Perez is like, you just went through there, you weren't, like, the chaos and people are dying, and you just, like, the scenes are mirroring each other, in my opinion, where she's just implying like I don't know how you can do this, like, what's wrong with you kind of a thing. Like, I'm not you. And he's basically just implying, like, once we get there, like, you can just go off on your own way, do what you want to
Yeah.
do. Like, I need to get my armor. It's like, man, you're such a fucking brick. Come on, you fucking buffoon. And yeah, so anyways, when he's talking about, like, I flipped a coin call 11 times since then, I knew every time I go into battle, it's not going to be me. Like, how's that going to motivate any fucking Marine you tell them? It just means that you have some god complex. Like, you know what? I mean, I flipped the fucking coin. I'm not gonna die, but you might fucking die.
Your family's already dead. You're probably gonna die next.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what
Not
he's
looking
saying.
good for you. Jesus, not a motivational speaker. So I'm glad he didn't really say much or anything when Keys brought him up, because if like Keys would have brought it, he's like, "This is Master Chief 117. You have any words, John?" He's like, "I flipped a coin 11
You're all
times."
gonna die. Yeah. I know I'm not. I'm Master Chief.
I want to see that edit. Yeah, that would be- and instead of just flipping the one coin like he does to Perez at the end, just throws like a bag full of coins. Yeah, the Perez thing. It's like I just don't understand the purpose of the character in the setting of this show and what it's supposed to do for the story. And I wonder if it's like I feel like they kind of did this in season 1 with Quan, where Quan was like under Chief's wing, and it seems like they really like that in this show to have a civilian type character that's under his wing. Maybe to add a more personal touch. I hope for their sake it's not just like his acting ability is not there, or he's not being directed to really emote much. So we're going to give you a character who's going to react in a bigger way. In the case of season 1, Quan could react in a more logical way to like the stuff that's happening on Madrigal, because that's where her people are from. Whereas Perez is like her family here on Reach, and so I don't know if that is the core purpose of it, but I don't think we need that. And if that is your only attempt at making me care for the people of Reach, like the civilians on the ground, it's just not working because you're not given the time there, and there isn't really much of a narrative purpose. So it also just made that whole thing feel like Chief was really lollygagging to get to the fleet comm wherever he was going. He's helping this lady move a typewriter to the top of a shelf. He's
Oh my gosh.
talking. He's picking up an axe. He's just moving so slowly through there, actively not fighting at all. And I just feel like that whole sequence was very strange to me, and I'm just struggling to see what the purpose is. Maybe by the end of the season, I'll see. Oh, that's why they wanted to have this Perez character in there. And nothing against the actress, because I think she's doing more acting than Pablo, and she's better.
Mm-hmm.
But she's just not as meaningful to the actual plot of the show. She just seems like an attachment there for a purpose I don't yet see.
Yeah, it's like they want to have a character that has a lot more humanity, I guess, like more so on the military side, and then like to I guess explain those things to Chief, because they even have that one sequence when I think they're just running from the Covenant trying to get to FleetCom, and then she just stops because she's freaking out, and it's like, I can't handle this. My training never prepared me for this. And Pablo's just like Taylor's like just a fucking brick, and he's just like, FleetCom, need my armor, let's go. Or actually, yeah, that's when he says that line that like you can just like you can go find your dead family or whatever he is. I'm paraphrasing, but it's just along the lines like
he wasn't quite that savage, but he's not far off.
that's how it felt though, because he just
Yeah.
only cares about getting to FleetCom, getting his armor, so he can just fucking rack him up and then add to his kill count. 'Cause he knows he's not dying, and he wants his full loadout for that. But like when that happened, it's just like, why even have this dialogue? It's not like I'm seeing some little hints and seeds of growth from Master Chief now that he doesn't have his mask on. I can show that actor act his ass off, and that just did not happen. The whole like pawn shop thing with that lady, I was just baffled. I'm like, I have no idea why we're taking away from some cool action sequences for this here. Like I don't like this at all.
I like the idea from like a world building perspective, but in the context of like the fall of Reach, it's not good. Like that should be something when the stakes are much lower and you're exploring the city or you meet this person. But yeah, in this situation, it doesn't really work as well.
It's like you said, like there should just be such an urgency, and yet he's like helping her lift up this typewriter, and like he goes from not even wanting Perez to like warn these people because he just doesn't have time. He has to get to FleetCom, to just having like a one-on-one like talk with this lady in her pawn shop, and Perez is freaking out, and he's like, she doesn't want to know. She doesn't want to. Whatever the line was, like it's just, man, the dialogue, the acting was so bad in that moment, and that's just to me where I'm like, I want the parallel universe that just shows me the show that was just like straight up action scenes. It's just like straight up cut scenes from Halo, like in the suits and everything. Like I want to see that whole show, but that's a completely different show from the ground up, and that's not what we're getting. I zero faith that season 3 is gonna transition into more of that. So I think I should have, I guess, tempered my expectations, but I always just get my hopes up, I guess. I don't know. I probably just because it is an IP that I am at least interested in, but I keep letting them hurt me.
I didn't like the whole scene with Chief and Perez there in that shop. I didn't care for, but everything with the lady just trying to explain why she cares about these things and the wars they survived and just this really old connection to Earth. I really like that, and I like when Halo touches on those things a little bit too. Just Earth. It's just neat, and just seeing how she's just praising these old forms of technology in such a like sci-fi future. I like that. I thought it was a nice humbling little moment, like a little bit of world building. But yeah, again, just Chief not in his armor and the dialogue from them being just kind of weird just didn't make sense to me.
Is there a Halo game? It might be like Halo 3 or 4, but like when do they ever go to Earth?
And Halo 2.
Halo 2
that opens up on Earth.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely don't remember Halo 2 at all.
Watching
go
this
ahead.
episode, it should make me want to go play Reach or Infinite because I still haven't played that campaign. But I was like, man, I could really go for some ODST right now. So I might download that, and I just want like the
classic.
desolate streets. That's like the vibe I want right now with my Halo.
That's a classic. Yeah, ODST. Yeah, that's Earth. Halo 2's Earth. Halo 3 is Earth. I think that's everything.
A lot
You see it
more
in-
games than I expected, honestly.
Yeah.
I just thought most of them were like on, I don't know, I guess Reach or the Halos themselves.
Most of them.
Spaceships.
Yeah. What else do I got to complain about?
Well, one other thing from that base camp scene that we were talking about when everyone kind of meets up there towards the end was I was pretty disappointed that Cobalt team being killed was just like a random one-off line, because that was something that we really built up a lot for like an episode and a half, pretty much, and then Commander Keyes just drops in a little one-liner there. And once again, Pablo, who's really cared about them, and that was why he got in trouble and was disobeying orders because he wanted to go save them or find out what was going on. Once again, doesn't really react. He doesn't have any line of dialogue that addresses it either. And then we know Pablo, he's not really emoting much. He's the brick. So that was pretty disappointing to me. And, Cobalt's not like we've been built up to see a ton of them and we know their personalities and I actively care about their fates, but I just felt like they still deserved more than what we got from them. And yeah, within 3 or 4 sentences, Commander Keyes was already on to a new topic, and that was brushed under the rug, and we will probably not hear about them again for the rest of the season, and therefore ever. So it's like, I don't know, that seemed like a really weird setup of 2 or 3 episodes. I think the show does that, where they like build up random smaller things and then just don't really fulfill them, and it just, I don't know. It's like, obviously it's not the main A plot, but it still feels like important to the story in the world, and we're just kind of brushing it under the rug for whatever reason, time, budget, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a shame.
Damn shame.
Damn shame. Let's jump to a quick ad break, and we'll be right back. And we're back.
Taylor, when you were complaining about, I think it was the no armor line, I just was picturing you at like 6:30 in the morning eating your cereal. You just waited your whole life for this live action Fall of Reach, and that's just the line, the nail in the coffin, makes you toss your cereal to the screen. It's a funny image.
I did message Taylor this, but I was just laughing during those scenes, and I feel bad about laughing, but I was like, man, I can just imagine Taylor. Yeah. Now whenever something like that happens, I'm just gonna imagine the cereal hitting the TV. That's gonna be the image in my head.
Well, it's like they ripped the Band-Aid off or something, right? Like it like kept waiting, like when's he gonna get the suit? Is it gonna be a cool armor suit up moment? Just like no suits. We got no suits. They're all
We could have
on another
got
planet.
a beautiful live action scene of armored Master Chief holding an energy sword. But you know what?
Yeah.
We got fucking little
Pablo.
Pablo holding the energy
Lil
sword
Pablo, okay.
He's little Pablo now in this scene. Little Pablo. He held that sword for probably 2.1 seconds before he just got capped, and then he dropped.
Yeah, you're right though. Like that should have been such an epic moment. Like the energy swords, they look sweet amongst the show. Like again, it ties into just CGI of the Covenant and like those scenes actually looking really good. And I agree. I think it would have hit so much harder with the armor on. But like that was just such a like I didn't even feel anything. I think in that moment of like him like grasping the I guess the hilt of the sword and then just fucking powering up. Like that should have been one of those moments where I'm like on the edge of my chair, and it just didn't have that effect at all. And I part of it is probably due to the armor, part of it is probably to do with like the fact that they have I don't know who that elite is supposed to be. I don't
It's
think
the
they've
Arbiter.
name dropped. Are you serious?
It's not the Arbiter we've come to know,
Oh,
but
okay.
it is
That's the
a
position.
Arbiter.
Oh,
That
is
makes
like
sense, I
a-
guess.
Is that like a military rank essentially?
Yeah, it's from my my knowledge, it's that the Arbiter used to be a much more like among like the elites culture. The Arbiter was like the bee's knees. It was like huge, great warrior, and so the Covenant, I believe, kind of transitioned that where disgraced kind of elites would be donning the armor of the arbiter, and to be an arbiter you'd be tasked with going on missions where you're not going to survive. You're doing the most perilous, dangerous things, and they're expecting you to die. And there's been a lot of arbiters, and we've seen the one arbiter in Halo Wars 1, and then we've seen Thel 'Vadam, who's the other main arbiter we've come to love from Halo 2 all the way up to Halo 5 Guardians. So
Gotcha.
Nice.
I don't know who this one is. I hope this one's not the Arbiter we like.
Is it is it the same armor of the Arbiter? They just like rip it off. It's burnt.
They all
whoever
look
the last Arbiter
they all
died.
look the same. Like, well, no, that's that I don't know. I think it's all multiple sets of Arbiter
Okay.
armor, but
I was gonna
this
say.
elite
Need
looks
a
like
lot of
the other
repairs
elites.
if all these Arbiters are just dying.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense that it would be in that higher position and paired up with I always forget her name, Marquise. 7 S at the end. Marquis.
McKee. just-
McKee, no R. There you go. I was completely wrong.
R, no
Like
S.
paired up with her. I guess that makes sense. But like, have they name dropped that that elite is the Arbiter at any point in the show? Like, has him and
no.
Master Chief dueled off? Like I felt it's as if it's
Yeah,
like
is that the
in
same
Star
guy-
Wars.
Is that the
Sorry.
same one like in that opening like foggy battle section? Because there was clearly one who was like the leader of that group, and McKee was there too. So maybe that
I
was
guess,
the same
yeah.
guy. So
I
they're
think
setting
it
up this
was.
rivalry, but it doesn't really come across that way.
Yeah, it's as if they've like dueled at the end of last season and like, oh, barely got away. Like, I'll remember you. Like, we
Right.
haven't had any of those moments or even just dialogue amongst this Arbiter and McKee to like be talking about the Chief so that like, you know, he has this like honor pack to just 1v1 him. And I think even just having the other elite shoot him there, like it had no effect because I was just like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, are they really like blood rivals? Like, they just did such a good job at, I think, setting the table for this big feast of a battle that we were supposed to get, and it just super underdelivered. And that's not just because he got cheap shotted by the plasma rifle. Like, it's just like the one-on-one combat in general. Like, it just seemed like I don't know, very lackluster. Yeah.
There's no reason for McKee and the Arbiter to actually be there either. They got Cortana, and so they could have left. They didn't have to go and be like, you know what, let's take a detour and just fuck these guys up. But that's apparently what the Arbiter wanted to do. And on top of that, yeah, you make a good point because there's no pre-existing buildup of this dynamic between Arbiter and Master Chief, at least how I feel whatsoever. So what they're building up here feels like it's Avengers Endgame, where Thanos is like, I don't even know who you are, when Wanda's like, you took everything from me. And so Arbiter is basically like, Chief, you took everything from me, and she's like, I don't even know who you are. Like, what's going on here? So that's what it feels like, equivalence.
Maybe that's what they're going for. There's a couple other battle sequences we haven't talked about, but once Chief groups up with Riz and that whole crew, we get that sequence where I think Lewis is his name, who was like the therapist guy, the physio, right? Do you guys remember Lewis? So I think his partner died, and then he wanted to sacrifice himself, right?
Mhm.
I didn't really. I guess the partner dying was the guy like in the previous room with like his chest open.
Yeah.
I just like didn't even recognize him, so that I kind of pieced it together afterwards, but didn't really have that emotional
Yeah.
effect. But that's one thing I do want to give credit to this show for, is that oftentimes in things like this, big battle sequences, like usually your main characters aren't dying, or like one character will die, or like one lower tier character will die. And Lewis is a lower tier character, but then we also had Vanek die and Commander Keys later in the episode. So I think in terms of stakes so far in just like what seems like part 1 of the Fall of Reach, and I mean, this next episode has to be more Reach stuff because we're still in the thick of it. I think that's good that they're having the stakes there, and they had one like A tier character die, and then like a couple smaller ones as well. I don't think that Lewis one really affected me all that much, and honestly, neither did the Vanek one. Although I thought the Vanek, like the elite grabbing the needle, and like I don't think this is how they work in the games or anything, but grabbing the needle from the needler and just stabbing it into his chest and it blowing up was like, that was some gangster shit. I really
beautiful visual, yeah.
Yeah, that was super cool. But yeah, going back to that earlier sequence, I don't know, did the death of Lewis and the sacrifice there do much for you guys?
Unfortunately not. Like we did get some time amongst those two other characters, especially even just Lewis's interaction. Well, I guess Riz in like interaction with both those characters. I thought they at least try to make us get attached to it, but personally I just feel like maybe we didn't have enough time for it, and also maybe it's just because they only had interacted with Riz. Like if there was some other connection amongst some of the other characters, maybe I would have been a little bit more attached to them, because yeah, like I kind of did what you did. Like I didn't realize it was Lewis's partner that perished there, but it was just like, why is Riz so upset? And then when Lewis was asking about it, that's kind of when it clicked. But I kind of even just forgot that he was there, because I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I thought that. I just kind of assumed that he was out of harm's way, but got murked there. And then, yeah, right away, Lewis just sacrifices himself. And I kind of chuckled to myself, because you have like Lewis, who's this blind guy with a noob tube, and he's just like, that is such a dangerous weapon to get. Like I get it, you know, he's somewhat gone through the Spartan training program. Like he's definitely heightened and way better than probably most of those Marines that we come across. But there's just a moment when he's like waiting to hear them, and then he just turns around and just like shoots a shot into a bunch of elites. I'm like, man, like, if he heard someone else and just like turned and just shot like a bunch of civilians with his noob tube, I'm like, is this really the best idea here? But
yeah, they haven't set him up as like Daredevil. They've set him up as like, hey, I went through this, I came up with this disability, and then I stopped going into combat because of it. So then he's just out here and he's just as proficient as he was before. I assume. It's like, I don't know why they took him off the force. Like let him be part of it. He's clearly pretty successful here.
No, absolutely. And like when like the resistance was first starting, and like you had Lewis in the group there, like they were going together, I was like, okay, I kind of like this ragtag team. But literally like 5 minutes later, it seemed that they just died, and it just didn't really hit hard with me on those saying goodbye to those characters. Even though I like last week, I did like their moments between them and Riz for sure. But yeah, I a little bit let down.
Yeah, they didn't have enough weight behind the characters for me to really latch onto them, because we see Riz, we see Chief, Perez, 5 Marines, and then both Lewis and the other Spartan, and they all die except for Perez, Riz, and Chief, which is sad. It's unfortunate, but there's no connection with these characters. I feel like the screen time with them was minutes throughout season 2, and I feel like at this point it's just man, the old catchphrase for Halo is Spartans never die, they're just missing in action. Unless there are Spartans on the Halo TV show, because everyone's just fucking dying.
Dropping like flies.
Yeah, dropping like flies. But I totally agree. Given the blind fellow the grenade launcher, and he's just firing up into every fucking window above him, it's just not a good idea. And then they didn't show him take out the Wraith, and I feel like they set it up that he takes it out, but they didn't show him taking it out. And I feel like this is, again, a downside, because people that know Halo know what a Wraith is. But if you don't know about Halo, there's like, oh, Wraith. You're like, what the fuck's a Wraith? And you can't even see really what it is, because it's still out in the distance. And then he just waltzes out towards. I thought we were going to get like a King Kong Skull Island moment where
that's exactly the scene that I thought of.
Where they just shoot him from a distance, or a sniper picks him off and the Wraith keeps going.
I quite liked the section leading into that set piece before we got that, where this is like right, I guess when his partner dies, and that scene before, I just thought the cinematography was actually pretty good. Generally, I'm not a big fan of the super shaky cam that they have for the action scenes in this show, but in that sequence, it really felt like a documentarian style. Like the camera was really close up. It was moving with them. It was really highlighting the characters' faces. It was like it really felt like it was part of the space. And then just zooming in on like important character reactions or zooming on that character's death, and then kind of like falling backwards out the window and like Riz jumping down, which was like the thumbnail shot of the episode. So I thought that was really well done. And then my nitpick, and I think I've nitpicked this before, it's like, man, it bothers me so much that the BR doesn't have like 3-round bursts in this show. It just shoots at whatever. And then do you guys find that like the CGI for like the gunfire just looks really cheap in this show? Like specifically the human weapens.
I can't really recall, honestly,
Okay.
top of my head right now. I'll look out for it.
That's good.
going forward.
Maybe it's just me, but it feels very cheap, and it makes me feel like the things they're holding are like paper mache, just like or cardboard props or something. Also, just the way they like swing them around. There's no recoil on them. I don't know. These weapons are like so nostalgic for me because I've played Halo since I was a wee lad, and so when they look great, but then they just feel like a cheap replica, it really bothers me. So those are more nitpicky things. I will.
I feel like that's something too that I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like it might not hit as hard if they were armored up too, because it just seems like they're a lot more maybe secure. Like it makes sense that the recoil is not really affecting them because they're just totally suited up. But like it definitely seems like there is no recoil there. And I agree with them like swinging around. It just seems a little extra, like they're going for some flourishes with their BRs, but I didn't notice actually the 3-round burst. So you're definitely more of a weapon enthusiast when it comes to Halo World
than
I.
BR, man. It's the best.
It's iconic weapon. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, with the Wraith, I agree with you for the most part with like the camera. I don't really want to say camera shake because it's not. It's more than that. It's really a realism type effect that they're going for like in the action. I did like it for the most part, but when it comes to the Wraith, at first like I just couldn't even see what it was, and it almost seemed like they're trying to hide it as if it was this like super weapon that like should be shocking when you see it. But even when they have the close up like before Lewis goes and dies, it seemed really blurry. And I don't like, maybe it was just poor CGI, which is bizarre because I feel like I'm always giving them credit for how good everything looks, but it was a bad showcase for a really, really badass Halo like signature vehicle, I guess, weapon. Because like they even showed us like a Scorpion in this episode, right? Like the giant tanks that the Marines have, and that looked really great. So I don't know why they were trying to hide the Wraith so much.
When did they show that? I missed that.
That was when
they were holding the line on the bridge.
Yeah.
Behind
like before the
Pablo.
Jackals come out, when they're like just starting, the Scorpion pulls up behind Chief, and that's like my favorite vehicle in the Halo universe. I feel hashtag Little Pablo, says Travis Snell. So I was pretty let down by the overall just I guess usage of the Wraith, because correct me if I'm wrong, but have we seen one in like the previous?
I swear we got one in that magical fight scene.
Yeah.
One of those first fights of this first season. Like I don't think it was Ghost, but I swear we saw a Covenant vehicle. I could be wrong though.
Because we've definitely seen the what are like the little ATVs, the Ghosts? Is that what they're called?
Well, there's the Banshees. We saw the Banshee, but I don't know if we've seen the Ghosts yet.
I don't think we've seen a Ghost.
Okay, whatever it might be, in that Wraith scene, I guess they've taken me out so many times in the campaign. Like those, it's like a nightmare to me when I see those on a level. So to have them here, it really didn't have the same fear factor that I was hoping for.
Chief in the suit going up to whatever it's called when you boot someone out of the vehicle, like that's what I would have wanted to see. That would have been
exactly.
Yeah, they definitely held back on it. They're like, how can we do a Wraith with the lowest budget possible and still call it a Wraith? And I think they achieved their goal. That's what they were going for there.
They're so deadly too in the games, like that mortar strike that they have.
They're so hard to take down.
Yeah,
unless you can get super close, which is not easy to do all the time.
Like the way that the elites and it's just the enemies and stuff that are dying just don't really make sense. We've seen how elites are very difficult to take down before, but in here it looks like one grenade takes out like 5 of them in a hallway. Couple shots just seems to incapacitate them like very, very easily. So I don't know. I feel like it's not being consistent how easy it is to take down these Covenant members. Well, the Jackals were cool to see too, and I feel like there was a
Mhm.
little bit seeing Soren just kind of like pick their heads or pick like in
Right.
between like their hands between their shields and stuff, which is what you do in the game, which is kind of fun.
Yeah,
But
true. They looked
My
more
God.
dinosaur-like to me than I think of them as from the game.
I'd say that's they're pretty
Like maybe they just
dinosaur-ish.
really are dinosaur-like, and I just
Mhm.
don't think of them. But they just look
What did you
really
think
like
they were?
Velociraptor head with jackal body to me.
Mm.
The shields looked great though.
Do they
I've always
always
seen one
have
like
those
that.
like little mini energy swords in the games? Like
No,
I know they
sometimes
have rifles.
They often have
but
plasma pistols.
yeah.
They can
Yeah.
have the sword though, I think, right?
They can in the later Halo games, but in the
Okay.
earlier ones, yeah, it's shield and plasma pistol.
Because it
Or
looks like an
snipers.
energy sword, just like more transparent, like or translucent, whatever which one it is. It didn't seem like it had the same energy the energy sword had, obviously. But I was like, do they always have those? Like I know they melee you, but like is that what they're meleeing you with? I don't know. It seemed bizarre.
There in the later Halo games, are skirmishers, and they run at you with them.
Oh,
Two
okay.
of them usually dual wielding.
Got their
so.
dukes up, ready to go. Taylor, you
Yeah.
mentioned a name that I actually completely forgot about, and he's in this episode. Not like a
Yes, it
lot,
is.
but like a decent amount, especially paired up with Halsey. We got Soren, the
Right.
the disgraced Spartan. Man, I had no expectations for like his interaction with Halsey, but this is not what I thought was gonna happen, and I'm just like, I don't fucking care about this character anymore after this episode. Like I didn't really before this one, but just like his like almost like the Three Stooges type level of like humor it seemed that he had at moments, like when they're escaping him and Halsey, and she like goes the one way and he goes the other way, and he's like a little 6-year-old, like I'm not going your way, I don't trust you, I'm blah blah blah, and then like she's like it's actually this way, and he's like shit, and then he turns around like walks over, and I'm like what the fuck are we doing here, like what is going on in this episode? And like even when I actually wrote it down because I didn't want to misspeak, but when I think it's his first line that he has with Halsey, what I would do if I was ever in the same room as you, and he just kind of like pauses, and he just looks like he has no thoughts going on in his brain, like he's just like frozen. He's like, what would I do if I was in the same room with you? Like it seemed like they were hoping to have this like really intense meeting between Halsey, who's just put like so many families and people under like so much distress because of this Spartan program, and like what it does to just the Spartan, I guess, psyche, just going through all of these things, and like have a one-on-one interaction, like is he gonna kill her with his bare hands? It just like nothing happened at all, and now that like they just escaped together, it like I said, I had no expectations, but this is not what I thought was going to happen. And I was just like, why are we even wasting time with this? Like, this just seems so ridiculous. Later on, Halsey seems like she's like almost a different character than what she was in later seasons. Specifically when like Keyes dies, she's like, we have to save him. And in my mind, I'm just like, this seems so far distance from where she was at the end of last season. It seems like it was always about just Halsey. As long as she's the one that kind of is living, then that's fine. And it seems like a different character. Like it was last
You
season.
don't
I haven't
think
rewatched that
she would
season
make an
one.
exception for the father of her daughter?
Sorry, you said you don't think she would?
Like her and what's his name? They because they were married, right? Or I forget if they were married, but
They're definitely sexually
cahoots.
involved at some point.
yeah, to me that didn't strike
Didn't
me as
bother you?
odd.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
that seems like if there's anyone that she's gonna care about, it's like him and Miranda. Even if she doesn't care about them very much, she's
Yeah.
still like, well, if it comes down to it, like I'm gonna try and save them. So that didn't bother me in the same way, did you?
Fair enough. I feel like I almost forgot that they even have that relationship.
Not hard to forget. I would say, yeah.
So thank you for reminding me about that. But I don't know. Like I was mostly just going off on the Sora thing. But Halsey hasn't been in this season so far too much,
Yeah.
and it seems very different than
She's had a very
obviously in a
muted
different
role.
position.
She's just locked
Yeah.
in this one room and is only talked to pretty much Ackerson at this point. The Halsey stuff, it's a mixed bag for me. One, I think like all those sequences, whenever we would always like build up to what was going to be a very intense moment in a battle, like the bridge scene, we're like getting set up, the lines getting set up, we're calling in the Scorpion, and then we just like cut to Soren and Halsey. Like you just removed all the tension that was built up in this, and then there's no tension in those scenes, even when they are having their little action sequences. So that was like maybe the downside for me. But I do still, I think I felt this way in season 1. I feel the same way here, that the actress that plays Halsey, I think she's like the best actress in this show, and so I think that she just has a bit more range than other characters across the board. Like even when she's out there on that ledge towards the end of the episode, when she's just looking out at Reach and seeing what's happening. And Soren, of course, is just blank stare, Pablo brick mode over here. But she's, she's tearing up. She's looking at all this. Presumably, a lot of this she's like worked on, this place that she cares about, even if she is still maybe a cold-hearted person at times. So I just think she's a bit better quality of an actor than a lot of these people. So I get a little bit more out of that. But generally, I was not really a fan of this sequence, and I think it does largely come down to Soren, and I'm not really a big fan of that character, and that does seem like they're going to have some big altercation with each other, but they don't really. I also feel like, I don't know, we're supposed to see these characters, like Soren is this kind of self-made man. He's like very resourceful. He's a pirate. And Halsey's like incredibly smart person. So I don't like that how they got out of their cell was just like there was a power outage and they got lucky and they got out of there because of that. I think it would have been cool if they had maybe worked together to come up with a solution to break out of this cage that they were put in. And I also think it's funny that like Soren, this whole episode, he's talking about how, oh man, I was great. I escaped you. I eluded you back in the day when I was held captive. And she's like, no, I let you go. And I like that the same thing happens here where he just gets lucky and the power gets shut off and then he can escape again. It's like, are you trying to show me that he's a resourceful, like smart individual who did all these cool things? It seems like he just gets lucky a lot when he's like in dire straits. So I don't know if it's very successful at setting him up as a intriguing character. So I don't know. I think there was a couple lines of dialogue between them that were all right. Like one from Halsey that I thought was nice was they were just talking about the impending situation, and because it's at the very start of the episode, they're in their cage and they're like hearing explosions going off, and so they start talking about war, and then Halsey has a line that's like, he's like, well, why is there war here? I thought the war was going on these other outer planets, and she's like, well, that's the thing about war. It never stays where you put it. And I thought that was like a really nice little poignant line there. So there was some good stuff in all of that. But for the most part, I think it's just takes away from like the tension of the episode. But it wasn't as bad because we didn't also have Quan scenes. We didn't also have all these characters doing other things. Like for the most part, it was pretty much just like an A plot and then a B plot. And then they converged at the end of the episode. So for the first time ever, I feel like the show actually successfully weaved multiple storylines together. That's once again why I think the pacing was better here than it ever has been. So I hope that keeps up in the rest of the season.
I hope so too.
Let's just look at my notes here. At the end, when Keyes does his honorable sacrifice, and then you have Perez on the bridge of the ship, I did not understand how she flew that ship out of there, because literally all she did was all she does is grab the throttle and just like goes forward. And it's like, I guess to turn on the jets to the ignite, that makes sense. And then all of a sudden they're just like going into orbit. And I'm like, did she like do anything else? Or all she did was hit that switch and it's just like self-drive. Like maybe Keyes did like an autopilot thing and that's all she had to do. She kept saying that she couldn't fly the ship without Keyes on there. And it truly felt that way. I was just shocked that it just worked.
Well, she more meant that as like on a personal level. Like,
right. No,
I'm
yeah, for sure.
Behind.
Definitely.
But it was weird to me that she was like not in a seat, because I feel like as soon as she would do that, wouldn't she just like fly back in the ship and smash into the wall and then presumably get knocked out and then all these people would die? So I think they definitely could have done that. Definitely could have done that a bit better. And now I wonder what she's going to do, because I feel like once again this happened with Quan in season 1 where she was hanging out with Chief the whole season and then they got separated at some point and then Quan was off doing her own thing. And so, like, now Perez is going to be separated. So are we going to also have this now where, like, we still are going to presumably see more of what Quan's doing? We're going to see what Perez is doing, but they're not going to be with Chief anymore. It's like, why are you setting up this relationship if it's not going to go anywhere? So maybe I'm talking too soon and they are going to get teamed up again, but just some weird choices. Unless, like, this is the end of Perez and she just escaped and we don't think about her again. But then why did she get all this screen time in the first place? It's very weird.
I would really much like if we just took a break from them and then maybe later on when we have like survivors, you like meet up with them and like the survivors, like that would kind of make sense, that Perez has just kind of been making sure that the civilians are fine with wherever they're flying to. Presumably they have a destination. I guess they're going to wherever the the higher ups went. They must have some sort of plan on something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what the plan is. I mean, from what I've seen, Ackerson is just completely sus, and I don't know what he's doing. We also got like finally, I mean, it's the smallest confirmation of all time, but Halsey's asking Commander Keyes, hey, where's Miranda? And he's like, yeah, she's gone. She's not here. That's it. So I was like,
I actually
what is
missed that
going on
entire
with this-
line, so I'm glad you told me that.
what is with this character? Like, I cannot believe that they're just not giving any info on where this like crucial character from season 1 is, and who's very
Yeah.
relevant to the characters in this episode, and probably would have had a great emotional scene if we saw her react to her father's death. So maybe we'll get that, but for all I know, it seems like that actress just isn't in the show anymore, and they didn't bother recasting. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask the question actually if we know anything else on Miranda. So I completely missed that line.
It was in
Thank
that
you for filling me in.
elevator with those two plus Soren when they were going up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Very
And
brief,
like
though.
even that, like having the face to face amongst Soren, Halsey, Keys, like I was expecting a little bit more there. I also was kind of expecting Chief to be there for that meet. I like obviously Chief sees her later on right before the explosion, but I was just
Yeah.
expecting that like this is a really big converging of characters. Like they have so much weight like amongst and like history amongst all those characters. Maybe next episode we'll get something between Halsey and Chief for sure. I would expect that, but I don't know. It just seemed like a big moment of like, let's get some great dialogue here, and then it just kind of dropped the pieces. And you know, you can make like devil's advocate. Well, like they're in a rush. It's big war times. Then why do we have time to like talk with the pawn shop owner way earlier on this episode? Like I'd so much rather take dialogue out of that sequence and put it with these other characters that I should be caring about. I was let down. And same thing with like the Soren Halsey thing. Like don't even have the interaction. Give me some other interaction. But again, I'm hating on Soren from here on out. Unless they
No,
give me a
I'm with you,
reason to
man.
really
Like-
love it.
Like Soren, when he got paired up with Halsey, at first it was like, why do these characters know each other? And it's like, oh yeah, okay, the Spartan program. Okay, I can go back and like imagine, and maybe there was scenes in season 1 of flashbacks that have to do with those characters specifically, but I can't really recall those. But yeah, someone like Soren and Commander Keyes, like I don't know what scene I'm supposed to get between them. Like, do they have a rapport, or do they like or dislike each other? I don't really know, and so it wasn't like some big cool moment that okay, we spent 3 episodes or even season 1 leading up to this connection between them. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get some more of that in the next episode, but there's presumably a lot we have to get to still. I mean, Kai, we don't know where she is right now.
Yep.
The Reach thing could go on for many more episodes. I don't know how much that hits the budget, but I mean, I imagine there's still a lot more to be done there.
What if it's revealed that Kai like went on this rogue mission? She suited up, she found her armor, and then she has like
Ooh.
the other Spartans' armor, or at least the Chiefs.
She saves
Taylor,
the day
would,
with the armor.
would that help you at all? Because right now it seems like the armor is on a ship to Alaska right now. Like it's gone
yeah.
for forever.
Yeah, it's out the window. It's not happening. I mean, unless Ackerson's gonna like do a U-turn, like, oh, we'll just drop that armor back off, and yeah. But no, I don't know. I'm just so unhappy with that decision. It's just not. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I could see that happening where she brings the armor. And she's like, okay, where's Vanek? Time to give him his armor. And then and that's where like when the moment she finds out, and she probably makes some dumb quip because in lack of her being here to make her stupid quips, Soren was the one making clips where some guy
right.
dies in front of him and he's like, oh, I'll take that. And he like grabs his gun and then he starts firing off. Like, come on, man. Like, no, like, read the room a little bit here. Like, we don't need your quips making fun of this guy who just died in front of you. And I feel like half the lines he brings on this episode are just stupid little quips.
I liked his birds. I thought that was kind of funny. He's like,
That's
giving
such a
food to the
weird
birds,
opening.
and then he's like, Keith.
Like, is this a Spartan thing? Like, do Spartans just have a big like affinity to avian creatures?
That's a first for me.
Because when he died, he's like looking up and sees the bird flying overhead. I'm like, is this like a lot of symbolism? Like,
Is that actually what happened? I didn't even see.
Yeah.
The bird.
I thought he was
I-
dead already, so
I
it was a
missed
weird
that.
shot because he's like laying there, eyes open in the death stance, and then it like goes from his perspective, just watching a bird. Look, maybe it's the last thing he saw. I don't know, a little bit poetic. I think it's a reach, but Dylan, you already mentioned like the Needler death scene of Vanek. I just want to double down on the actual look of the Needler. It's not the first time we've seen it in the show, but I fucking love that weapon. That's like
great.
top 10 greatest weapons ever made in video games. Like
We should do
it's
that
just
side quest. That'd be fun.
oh. There you go. Put a pin on that one.
I'll write
Put a
down.
needle in that one. Just like the actual look of the weapon. I'm always surprised on how big they are. I know like in the games, like they are really large on a character's hand, but it's probably just like the first person view. I'm just so used to just seeing the top of it, and just the reload effect when those needles come out. I fucking love that weapon, and the explosion was sweet. I also quite like the look of like the plasma explosions of like the Covenant's weapons. It's mostly like artillery coming in, but it's just like a sploosh of blue jelly that would just burn you to a crisp. Quite like the look of that, and also when Riz tossed the grenade. I thought she just threw like a regular frag grenade or something, but it and maybe you guys can correct me, but I thought only like the plasma grenades have this like blue explosion. It kind of looked like that when she did throw it. I don't know, maybe I'm just seeing things, but it looked like it had the blue plasma explosion with the frag grenade effect, but that's me kind
Frag
of
grenades
being
are always like pretty small in the games. Like they don't
right.
really
Yeah.
hit a huge area, and they're pretty minimal. The plasmas are a bit more explosive in that way. So
Maybe it exploded. Maybe her frag exploded the Covenant's
Well, daisy
grenades,
chain,
and that's what
yeah.
I saw. Yeah, daisy chained it. So who knows? But I just wanted to shout out the effects of those weapons because, again, like that looks great. Why not just do? Well, it's probably very expensive to do only that in a show, but
yeah.
still think you could have done something better than what we're getting with a cheaper budget. Budget probably too.
Guys, Commander Keys, he died. He's dead. He's gone.
Yeah.
I don't think he's dead.
Really?
I think compared to some of the other deaths that we saw were like an off-screen version like this seemed like it was way too ambiguous that he probably could have escaped from this. And the other thing too, and if they, again,
You're lying.
prediction time. Yeah, if this is actually where he dies, I would be so upset because he plays such a pivotal role in the first Halo game.
Oh, okay.
He's on charge of the Pillar of Autumn with Chief. They discover Halo, and then he turns into a flood, basically, and then Chief has to go and basically pull out some of his implants for part of the mission, whatever. But he turns into a flood, and it's a huge moment. And so for this just to happen here, he gets killed on a platform. Just I'm not buying it. All we saw was flames, and we didn't even see what happened to the jackals.
Yeah.
It just looked kind of destroyed. So I'm thinking maybe he ducked and dodged somewhere. If not, it's super anticlimactic. He whips his little fucking pipe out, and that's how he goes.
I would like that you're right, just because I was actually liking that character by the end. I think I always
also one of
like
the better actors, I would say.
Yeah, I think that is what it is. Like I could just kind of tell from the get-go that he seemed like a better actor, so maybe I was hoping for more scenes, and if that's just the end of that, that's obviously just a goodbye to that character. So I do hope that you are right, but I don't know. I don't want to say I'm not buying it because like I also didn't see him just get burnt to a crisp. Like you definitely didn't see that. Maybe he just grabbed a jackal shield or something, did the cover thing. Like there is ways to write in that he survived. Maybe he's incredibly disformed. Who knows? But yeah, I would agree that if this is the end, that's just a letdown. And I think in the moment, I'm like, well, and again, like this is where I didn't. Pardon me, I didn't recall the whole Miranda name drop, how she's just disappeared. So in that moment, I'm like, okay, he's going to die. Miranda's going to come in. That's going to be like the passing of the torch there, which would kind of make sense as somewhat of a script layout. That's because we've already been introduced to Miranda. We know she's like, she's not the pinnacle, but she is a higher ranking officer. Like all the cards are kind of aligning that way. I don't know what they have planned. Do they just introduce a new character to kind of be the new Keys? I think that's a terrible idea. But
yeah, I hope he's still around too. I didn't even think about the possibility that was a fake out, but I think I'd be happy with it, even though it kind of goes against my point I was making earlier of the stakes of the episode being so big because these marquee characters are dying. But yeah, I guess last thing on that is I just thought the music was really good. I mean, it was started out just kind of the generic, like the strings playing really emotional beats, but then there's kind of like the synthy beat under it that I don't know, just added a little texture that I thought was quite nice. So I thought it was a fairly emotional scene for a character that I do care about. I mean, there's very few of those in the show, but I genuinely like that character. I think he hasn't really had too much of an arc this season, but he's had a small little baby one, I guess. So that's more than a lot of characters can say. So yeah, I guess I hope he sticks around. Do you think that would get resolved next week, or would that be something you save for a couple weeks?
I think you could see opening of next week. next
Wow,
week's
that
episode.
soon?
Just like the smoke and the debris, and he's like crawling through, and he lifts his head up. It's like, oh shit, it's Keys. He's alive.
He's wearing the
And I
Spartan
just-
outfit. He just had the armor all along.
He had Chief's armor all along. Yeah.
And then
I
Chief's just like, he looks weak. Leave him to die, guys.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next. He's like, I'm the commanding officer now.
I just feel like the Chiefs set up such a like we need you. We need more leaders like you. You got to survive this. And then we already had Vanek die and a few other characters die. So I feel like Vanek was then cashing in on the last.
And that
of the
was
remaining
after
characters.
Keys, right?
It was after, yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's the true guy being killed, and Keys
Yeah, the
is
second
not.
guy to die out of 3 in an episode never actually dies. That's a
Yeah.
classic rule of film. I don't think I have anything else on this episode.
I've gone through all my notes.
The elite arbiter cutting off the elite's head, didn't like that. I can't see an elite doing that. They're very much like they're talking and like my brothers, stuff like that. That's how they kind of talk and refer to each other. They're very
Mhm.
honorable, and even though an arbiter is necessarily not in that same kind of boat anymore, I just don't see that happening. It doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
and I didn't like it.
At most, like, chop off his hand or something for
Yeah.
firing the plasma pistol with it, but just murder seemed it seemed kind of weird to me. I don't know.
It did seem very weird because even like thinking of, was it Halo 2 when you get introduced to the Arbiter?
Yes.
Yeah, so like even just that whole sequence where this individual has like disgraced himself, like and they could just murder him there if that's their way of life, but like they go through this ritual to give him the armor of the Arbiter, and it doesn't seem like, you know, we're doing the Ape stretch right now. Ape doesn't kill Ape. It seems like Covenant doesn't kill Covenant like that, at least. So it just seemed. It seemed uncharacteristic, which is kind of funny to say because I really don't know much about how the Covenant work on like a lore basis. But it seemed odd even for someone like me that isn't, you know, well versed in that.
What else do I got here? We already talked about that and that. I guess the last thing I have, and there's one more quote actually. So in that speech when Keys was talking to John and trying to boost up the morale for all the Marines, Keys says, today he needs no armor. Today he needs the warrior inside himself. That same warrior in all of you. I like what Keys is going for here, but I mean, it's all they see is a
Taylor
Spartan
likes
with
the
no
line
armor.
that includes no armor. It's shocking.
Yeah, I appreciate what they were trying to do. The other thing, and this is something I'm going to quote here because I thought this was great. I was browsing the forums earlier, and I quote,
Which
it's an
forum? Wait, sorry. Which forums are we talking about? Here?
Reddit.
Okay.
For the Halo TV show?
Yeah, specifically
Okay.
the Halo TV show. I was looking specifically at the Halo TV show sucks forums.
You're
And
gonna
I
get
quote-
biased info over there. I think.
Is everybody on there at like 6:30 in the morning too? Like all eating their cereal probably? Like is
I'm-
this the time that you checked?
No, this was like midday. I'm
Oh, okay.
convinced that, like, I'm happy that people can like this show. I really, really am. But at the same time, when I see people praising it, like best action show, I love this show, yada yada yada. I'm just thinking, man, who bought you off? This is just absolute bullshit. I just can't see it. But, and I quote, it's an okay show, but a fucking terrible Halo show, end quote. Anonymous Redditor. I really sympathize and agree with that statement.
You agree with it?
I would agree with
disagree.
that. I'd say it's an okay
Yeah.
show, but it's a terrible Halo show.
Huh.
I think it's a weak show.
I think okay show is an overstatement.
I agree.
I agree with the second part for sure.
Yeah.
Hmm. It's not far
Oh.
off though. I'll give it to him. I'll
Yeah.
approve that message.
Generous.
Just in context of where things are, because they've clearly leveled the playing field here. So the setup of the story is Keys is on the Pillar of Autumn. Cortana, Halsey gets Cortana. Halsey takes Cortana, gives Cortana to a few Spartan members of you see in Halo Reach, the game. A few Spartan members, and their job is to get Cortana to Master Chief on the Pillar of Autumn. And so that is what you have to do, and you get Cortana to the Pillar of Autumn. Chief, Keys, and Cortana basically get out of there with the Pillar of Autumn. They make a jump to a random set of coordinates, and those coordinates are Halo. And so right now we're looking at Keyes is dead, Cortana's been abducted, and Chief has no armor, and there is no mention of the Pillar of Autumn or the ship or anything like that. It seems like they are legitimately stranded on Reach right now. So I'm really curious how this is going to connect with them getting to Halo. And we don't
It's gonna be
even.
Kai. It's gonna be
Well,
Kai. Kai's gonna come in
apparently.
with the Pillar of Autumn.
We don't. Yeah, the little ship. We don't even see how they've changed how they're gonna like go to Halo. I'm pretty sure, because at least the books are not necessarily canon to the games. That's all changed, but the only knowledge that I have is from the books, where there was a museum that the Spartans were fighting at the Covenant a long time ago, and in the museum there's a random gem that had some old writing on it, and they didn't think anything of it. Humans just disregarded it, but it was on the museum. Cortana cataloged the information that was written on this gem, and years later, when they were ditching Reach and trying to get out, she figured out, hey, I'm just going to punch this in because maybe these are coordinates, and it turns out the coordinates were to the Halo ring. So they've changed that, and now it's the devices, because the Forerunner tech that Maquis and the Arbiter have, they also have Cortana. So really, there's no setup for how the Pillar of Autumn and Chief would even get to Halo. That kind of eludes me. The other thing too is that the reason Reach isn't getting glassed is because there's a whole archive of Forerunner tech that they're trying to excavate and dig into.
Right.
And we haven't even really seen that necessarily.
Would that be why Maquis specifically is down there?
Well, I think
find
she's
that?
down there just to kind of, she's human, and I feel like she can easily access human systems and try and like
Right.
sneak by and get to the seed or whatever that shit was that we saw in the first season of Halo. So I don't know, just the way that the games and the books have set up themselves with the story right now, we're just in a completely different narrative, and I'm really curious how they're going to get to the Halo ring. I don't see that connection
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, and even with what you're describing, that doesn't seem so out of the realm of possibility for a TV show with this length and budget to achieve. So it's interesting. Wonder why they made those
Yeah.
choices.
Beats me. Oh, this fucking show.
I'm so sorry, Taylor. My
Could be
condolences
better.
to you.
Could be
Are
better.
you
know
gonna do
what?
the same thing next week? Are you gonna watch it in the morning before work and just?
I'll
ruin your
watch
day?
it in the morning. Yeah, I'll probably watch it in the morning. I'm gonna
Never
regret it.
learn. You never
No.
learn, sir.
Honestly, if you want to enjoy good Halo content, go watch Halo Forward into Dawn. That's a fantastic Halo movie, which
I've
is
seen
just a YouTube. You've seen it? Yeah, so you know.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's fucking fantastic. Great representation of Master Chief, all those characters.
Okay,
Jesus
movie.
Christ.
Okay, Halo story. Anonymous Reddit user.
That is all my notes. I
Nice.
got nothing else to sneak in there.
Let's get out of here.
All
get
right.
outta here.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. I will be back next week. We'll see you in the search bar.
Bye-bye.
Oh.